by the end of programming, you should have a good understanding of which of the following. Choose 3. So this one is one that I have designed slightly just to try to get you to answer the wrong answer so we can have a conversation. So this is not a particularly well-written one, but you get the point. So end of programming, what should you know? We have goals for the project, preliminary designs, basic budget, areas, square footages, and relationships, contractor sworn statement, feasibility report, ADA compliance. The answers are, we should have goals for the project. That's a significant part of programming. Part of the program, the whole point is that you put together the information that's needed, they gather it all up, and then there's a process that you go through in order to figure out what is the point of what we're doing? What are the goals for the project? And then from there, there's going to be a series of questions about, well, how is it going to work? Not too much detail, but what are the overall areas? How much square footage per type of need? So if we're doing an office building, and let's say the admin area has a certain number of people, how much square footage is that? Do they need a lot of extra conference rooms? Do they need a lot of file storage space? Things like that. What are the square footages? What's the scale? What are the areas? What are the relationships between, let's say, admin and marketing, or maybe there's a very strong relationship between admin and marketing, but not so much of a strong relationship between facilities and marketing, so that they don't need to be right next to each other, but admin and marketing want to be near each other or in the same space. Are there ways that we can use the same conference room that the admin people said they wanted and the marketing people said they wanted one? Can that be one conference room? Right? So understanding the sort of areas and square footages and how all those relationships are going to work is a key part of what the program is trying to do. And then many of you probably looked at this and said, well, preliminary designs, that seems reasonable. It's right at the beginning. You have a sort of preliminary sense. You're talking about all of these issues, and that is absolutely not the correct answer. So B is a definitive no. And this is actually quite likely to show up on the exam in some form or other. However, a basic budget is likely to be part of the program, just to be able to say, yeah, it's a $5 million project, or it's a $4.2 million project, so that you have some sense of scale, and that's going to help understand what our square footage possibilities are. It's hard to talk about square footages without having a sense of what the overall budget is, but we are not talking about designs. We are talking about all the stuff you do before you start designing. And the reason that's important, and this is a hard one for all of us architects, whenever we start a project, if we're part of the programming, which we aren't always, often the owner just brings the program, but if we're part of the programming, somebody says to you, all right, we're going to do this new office, or we're going to do a school, or we're going to do a library. He's like, oh, and you start thinking of libraries, and you have all these ideas, and we could have a cantilever over the sidewalk and create a canopy. That would be cool in this place. That would be great. Well, you're designing before you've looked at the research. You're thinking of the design before you've gone through the process that should lead you to a design. And the reason that's a problem is because if you do it that way, you are likely to do the research that answers your design, not the actual research. You will find ways to make your design the correct design instead of finding the correct information and then getting a design from that. So this is a key sort of concept that anything that's regarding programming would want you to understand. It's not about having an idea before you get in there. It's about finding the information that's going to tell you how the design should be, and then designing from that information. Contractor sworn statement is something that you do at payout times. That's when they say, this is how much it's going to cost, this is how much we want you to pay us, and you do an initial one when the construction is about to start, but that's not at the end of programming yet. You still have to design the building. Feasibility report may be a part of programming, but isn't necessarily. ADA compliance is sort of part of everything, but again, isn't necessarily part of programming. So the three real answers are goals, basic budget, relationships and square footages, and all of that.